And US senators have approved a last-minute deal to avert the worst effects of a government shutdown. Following President Trump's backing, US government enters partial shutdown now, but a short lapse this weekend is unavoidable.
Is to end the partial government shutdown today, sending the bill to the president's desk for his signature. That legislation funds the Department of Homeland Security for less than 2 weeks while lawmakers negotiate reforms to ICE.
To reopen the government and temporarily fund ICE for 2 weeks. This brings an end to the 4th day of a partial government shutdown that began over immigration enforcement and the January deaths of 2 Minnesotans.
U.S. government reopens, but political tensions rise. What happened? The government shutdown ends. Today, the United States government officially reopened after a short but serious shutdown. This happened after President Donald Trump signed a major funding bill that was narrowly approved by the House of Representatives. For several days, many federal offices were either closed or working with limited staff. This affected government workers, public services, and created uncertainty across the country. The shutdown happened because Congress and the White House could not agree on a full federal budget. Without an approved budget, the government is not legally allowed to spend money, which leads to a shutdown. After intense discussions and pressure from both political parties, lawmakers finally passed a temporary funding bill. President Trump signed it, and that decision allowed most federal operations to restart. Government workers were able to return to their jobs. Federal agencies reopened. Basic services started working normally again. However, this bill is not a long-term solution. It only funds the government for a limited time. Most importantly, funding for the Department of Homeland Security, also known as DHS, will only last until February 13. This means the shutdown is over for now, but the risk is not completely gone. Why the shutdown happened and why it matters. To understand why this news matters, we need to understand how government funding works. The U.S. government needs approval from Congress to spend money. That approval comes through funding bills. When lawmakers disagree and fail to pass those bills on time, the government shuts down. This shutdown happened because of political disagreements, especially between Republicans and Democrats. These disagreements were about spending priorities, policy decisions, and how much money should go to different departments. Shutdowns are not just political events. They affect real people. During shutdowns, federal workers may not get paid on time. Government services slow down. National parks and offices may close. Public trust in leadership can drop. Even though many essential services continue, the uncertainty creates stress for millions of Americans. This is why both parties faced pressure to act quickly. The funding bill that passed was a temporary compromise. It was not perfect for either side, but it was enough to reopen the government. President Trump and congressional leaders will have to work together again, even though political tensions remain high. For Americans, this means uncertainty continues. The government is open today, but the situation is not fully stable. 4. Political controversy over voting comments. At the same time as the shutdown news, a new political controversy has emerged. President Trump made comments suggesting the idea of nationalizing voting processes. This means the federal government having more control over how voting is run nationwide. Currently, elections in the United States are mainly controlled by individual states, not the federal government. After these comments, Democrats strongly criticized the idea. They said such a move would be illegal and against the Constitution. Democratic leaders described the comments as outlandishly illegal. They argue that voting laws are protected by the Constitution and that states have the legal authority to manage elections. This disagreement has added more tension to an already divided political environment. Supporters of the president argue that election security is important. Opponents argue that federal control would threaten democracy and state rights. No laws have been passed regarding this idea. No official policy has changed. But the comments alone have sparked debate across Washington and among the public. This controversy shows how deep political divisions remain, even as lawmakers try to keep the government running. Closing thoughts. The U.S. government has reopened after President Trump signed a temporary funding bill. The shutdown ended, but DHS funding expires on February 13. Another shutdown is possible if no new deal is reached. Political tensions are rising due to comments about voting control. Democrats strongly oppose those comments, calling them illegal. This situation shows that while the immediate crisis is over, bigger challenges remain ahead. The next few weeks will be critical. Will lawmakers reach another agreement? Will political tensions ease or grow stronger? And how will these decisions affect everyday Americans? These are the questions the nation is watching closely.